DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Newt here with you. We hope you had a wonderful weekend and are having a wonderful Monday, this final Monday in the month of June. And I suffered pain unimaginable this weekend. Derek, you played 15 years in the NFL. You suffered some serious injuries. My wife has given birth to 2 beautiful children. I can only imagine how difficult childbirth is. But yesterday...
And Willie took an elbow from Shaq.
And Willy took an elbow from Shaquille O'Neal. But not...
That's not true. That's only myth. It's an urban myth.
Dang it,
I was
Willie.
on the court with Shaq many times, but I avoided any elbows. My roommate, though, and one of my best buddies, Kevin Anglin, did on the 4th of July in a pickup game at Memorial Gym, smash my nose, which I'm pretty sure was broken. I just never, on 4th of July, I was like, we're not going to the emergency room. I'm just going to let it lie.
Drink it out.
Just let it lie. So I still have a crooked nose, thanks to him.
So Willie broke his nose in the pickup game.
I've had plenty of, there's the infamous pickleball injury. I've had my share of pain.
Derek suffered injuries
enough
throughout his NFL career. Our female listeners out there, some of you have given birth at least once. I can only imagine.
Had serious sports injuries.
Yes.
Yeah, that too. But I need a toilet seat this weekend. And none of what you experienced compares to the pain I have experienced and continue to experience.
You could have just said lower body injury.
Yes.
No, I'm not afraid to admit it. I was bending over to help my son in the bathroom and knee directly the toilet seat.
Ooh, when you bent. Ooh.
Ugh.
Now, was it one of those things where your son laughed at you uncontrollably in your pain while you were in maximum pain?
No, actually, when I told him I hurt my knee, he wanted to find the boo-boo. And then he saw it and goes, oh, yeah, it's red.
It's red.
So he actually cares. He cares. He wasn't laughing, or if he did it behind my back when I wasn't around. But I am a trooper, and I am here. Good thing I don't have to use my leg for the next 3 hours because my butt will firmly be planted in this chair. We have a fun show today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation during the 4 o'clock hour because at 4:20, Matt Cullen, former Predators forward, he played here for 2 seasons near the end of his 1,500 game NHL career. He will join the program at 4:20 because his son, Wyatt, was the Predators pick in the first round, number 10 overall during Friday's first round. So we will catch up with Matt Cullen to talk about his son, Wyatt, being the 10th overall pick of the Predators in the first round of the NHL Draft. Again, that conversation coming up at 4:20. But we start today's show with the heartbreaking news that broke this morning. Former Tennessee Titans running back Chris Johnson revealed on Good Morning America that he has been diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. He told Michael Strahan that he was diagnosed with the disease last year. He's 40 years old, if memory serves. Johnson conducted the interview through a speech-generating device, and it was jarring to see someone who was once one of the most dynamic runners in the NFL in that condition. And I wasn't here in 2009 when Johnson ran for 2,006 yards and totaled 2,509 yards from scrimmage, which, by the way, still stands as the NFL's single-season record. But I know how much that season means to Titans fans, so I want to hear from all of you at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. But Willie, Derek, what were your reactions to hearing the news earlier today about Chris Johnson being diagnosed with ALS?
It's just heartbreaking. It shows you how fast, things can change and how life can change. And someone that, was it's just his athletic prowess. You looked at him as someone that, it would never happen. And then you hear it and it brings you back to reality of how, not just how physical the sport is, but how things can change in an instant with one diagnosis. I saw it firsthand with OJ Brigance when I got to Baltimore. This was a guy that he had retired, and I played against him, but he had retired, and he was doing wind sprints and everything, working out in the weight room with us, running, looked like he still could play. And then a year or two later, he was diagnosed with ALS, and I saw how it rapidly, destroyed his body, not his mind, but his body. We went from a guy that was running with us to a guy that was resigned to a wheelchair. And it seems like that's the same thing that's happened to Chris right now, is that a guy that he probably never thought this would happen. Who would? Even though you know how physical the sport is. But even with the sport being physical, guys may get it. I've seen guys get it that didn't play much at all. Guys that played 20 years, never had any effect. So it's just unfortunate for he and his family. But the one thing he said is that, listen, mentally, I'm still here. Mentally, I still can do the things that I was able to do. It's just physically, he's going to need some help. And just hope that there are more and more things that can help, guys like Chris and OJ and other guys, Shaw, here in Nashville. You just hope that the diagnosis, and then it comes a cure, that you will not see more and more players, let alone people, with ALS.
Amy Adams Strunk released a statement earlier today. She said, quote, "Some people leave a mark on an organization that you just can't put into words. Chris Johnson is one of those people for us. His leadership on the field, in addition to his impact in the locker room and Nashville community, have written him permanently into the story of this franchise. Learning this news is extremely difficult, and we will support Chris every step of the way throughout his journey. We are holding him and his family close and join our fans around the world in expressing our love for Chris."
It's just such a sobering thing. I've often wondered that there's been, I don't know how many studies per se have been done as to whether football players or collision sport players are more prone to getting ALS. I know there's some research that's being done, and there's been tireless work by so many people to try to find breakthroughs on ALS, because especially of how it plays itself out, right? You watch somebody go through, especially a brilliant athlete like a Chris Johnson. And I've had two friends that I've watched, I shouldn't say watch every day, but I know went through it and have since passed away. Just really, really good people. One of them, some people might be familiar with, Darrell Hammond, who played for the Nashville Cats. He was a really good college football player at Virginia. Great two-way AFL player in the prime when the Arena League was probably at its biggest height. And he stayed in Nashville after he was over. Just a great all-around athlete. And just to watch that unfold, it's just so sad. Every disease is full of sadness, but that one in particular. And so all you can do is root and hope that breakthrough comes someday.
A study done by Boston University scientists found that nearly 20,000 NFL players, a study of nearly 20,000 NFL players found that they have a 4 times higher rate of ALS than the general male population, and players who had been diagnosed with ALS had significantly longer careers, 7 years, than athletes without ALS. So there is a correlation between a long NFL career and the likelihood of being diagnosed with ALS. And as I said, I wasn't here in 2009. Frankly, in 2009, I wasn't paying attention to the Tennessee Titans because I was still 7 years away from moving to Nashville. But the two of you were here. Willie, you were here. Derek, were you still in Baltimore in 2009?
I was still in Baltimore.
But I know that you kept tabs on what was going on around the league. For the people who were not here, who did not experience Chris Johnson's 2,006-yard rushing season, what stood out to you about his play that year?
I think it's the most breathtaking season that I think I've ever seen. Now, the team was a lot better the year before. The team in 2008, when he was a rookie, and they had I guess it was like the thunder and lightning kind of. I'm trying to remember
Thunder and
Smash and
Lightning.
dash.
Smash and
I think
dash.
that's what they called it. They had Lindell White for some of the tough yards, and Chris Johnson before he really became the feature guy. Had a great year, but not close to the workload that he had the next year. The next year's team, it was a frustrating season because they went, I believe, 0-6 out of the gate, and then recovered to have an 8-8 season. But it was kind of bittersweet how the team was doing. But at the same time, that season was incredible. Chris Johnson at his height, his first couple years in the league, including those two seasons, 08 and 09. You could see it in the very first days of training camp. His explosion, his speed was so different than anything that we had seen. And Jeff Fisher, I remember him saying, a few weeks into training camp, and then you could start seeing it in the regular season. He said, there were a lot of plays in training camp where you're not tackling people. And DMase, how it goes. You're like, you try to get the two hands, you bump them or whatever. But he would bust so many plays. The coaches were all like, I think in a real game, he would have scored on that play for real. You see the guy run all the way down to the end zone. You're like, hey, he probably wouldn't have made it. He would have been tackled. All the defense is like, I had you over here. But lo and behold, man, you got into the games and you just felt like no matter where the ball was and what the down and distance was, you give him the ball, there's a chance he is going to score. I don't care if you're on your own 10, on the 50, or whatever. He had so many home runs. It was just a matter of time. And in that 09 season where he got the ball a lot more, I feel like it was happening like every week. You're just waiting because you knew sooner or later he was going to pop one. And that's how you have 2,000 yards. It was breathtaking to watch him at the top of his game.
He was a big play waiting to happen. And he was one of those guys that, there are guys in the league that, have track speed. There are guys in the league that, they're fast, but okay, if you line them up against somebody else or, are they outrunning people? But then there are very few people that's able to put sort of the track speed with the football speed and still be electric. And Chris Johnson was one of those people. You can go to Randy Moss, Tyreek Hill, and there are some Waddle now. There are different guys in this league that when they touch the football, you're holding your breath because if they get a sliver of a lane, they're gone. And Chris Johnson was one of those guys. You get a lane and you may hit him, but he's bouncing off and he's scoring. He did it numerous of times. And I saw it firsthand, playing against him in the playoffs. And had he not gotten hurt, it would have been a tough one.
Kyle,
it really been a tough one.
It's one of the all-time what if.
Kyle
really
chimes in on our text line.
Had he not got hurt.
I mean, how fortuitous is this? Just as you opened your mouth to say that, Kyle texted in and said, Derek definitely remembers that season because his team tried to rip Chris's ankle off his body in the playoffs.
We ain't trying to rip his ankle off, but we knew that, hey, he's the head of the snake. So you got to make sure you contain him or do something. But had he not gotten hurt, it would have been a really tough game to win. I'd say we wouldn't have won, but it would have been a tough game. Tougher than what it actually was.
It was towards the end of the first half.
Yeah, it was going into half. Yeah, it was going into half.
Yeah.
And after halftime, we were able to play from a defensive standpoint. You take the ultimate playmaker off the field, that allows you to do some things different. Not to say that I think Lindell White was the backup at the time or the second guy. Not to say that we disrespected Lindell because Lindell was a hell of a rusher, but he wasn't Chris Johnson.
Not the home run
exactly. Hitter. He wasn't the home run hitter. But he made his mark across the league in a way that, not many people can. And in such a short amount of time. It's not like he had this, this long career. I don't believe. I think it's 12 years, 11 years, somewhere around there.
Chris Johnson played 10 years.
10 years.
In the last 2 years, and really not a whole lot to speak of, just a handful of games.
Exactly.
So
with
it was
Cardinals and Who else did he play for? The Cardinals?
The Jets. He left the Titans to go to the Jets and
Mhm.
then ended with the Cardinals. It never recaptured it with those two teams, but his first 6 years as a Titan
was explosive.
had 1,000 yards in each one. And it was unfortunate because that first team was so good. It was the number one seed, lost to the Ravens that DMase is talking about there, in that real tough, tight game where the Titans fumbled 3 times in the red zone, lost Chris Johnson at halftime, just couldn't get enough offense. That was a great team. And then the next year we talked about it, but that was really the only really good Titans team that he played for, which was sad because he was such an amazing weapon in his prime, and they just didn't have the right pieces around him.
Looking at the all-time leaders in a single season in yards from scrimmage, Chris Johnson, number 1, 2,509 yards from scrimmage in 2009. Marshall Faulk in 1999 with the Rams. Then Christian McCaffrey, 2019 with the Panthers. Tiki Barber in 2005 with the Giants. And LaDainian Tomlinson in 2003 with the San Diego Chargers. Chris Johnson, still the single season leader in yards from scrimmage in NFL history. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that just shows you how, amazing of a player he was. And, that 8-year shelf, 10-year shelf is really what, that I think that may be sort of the shelf life as far as, you plan. But I'm sure the average for a running back, at least back then, maybe 7 years, somewhere around there. When you got to 10 or maybe even 11, that was a milestone. But he had some great years here with the Titans, and it's unfortunate, it's sad, and it's just one of those things that I think ultimately every player worries about, whether you played a year or 15 or 20. These are the things that you worry about, and amongst other things. But being in your life after retirement, and all of a sudden you get diagnosed with something like ALS, and it changes everything, I'm sure.
615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction to the heartbreaking news revealed earlier today on Good Morning America that former Titans running back Chris Johnson has been diagnosed with ALS at just 40 years old. 615-737-1025. We'll take your memories of Chris Johnson throughout the program. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, this past Friday was the first round of the NHL Draft, and the Predators have received high marks for what they did in the first round of the NHL Draft. We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Friday was the first round of the NHL Draft. We were at BetMGM Sports Lounge inside Bridgestone Arena. Outstanding turnout, by the way. Kudos to all of you who made it to the draft party on Friday night. They showed the draft party on the ESPN broadcast, and I was incredibly impressed by the turnout and the energy from the Predators fans who made it out to BetMGM Sports Lounge on Friday. And the Predators went into the first round with one pick, 10th overall. And with that 10th overall pick, they drafted Wyatt Cullen, son of former Predators forward Matt Cullen, who, again, will join us in about an hour. And then the Predators traded back into the first round at number 31 overall, trading a couple of picks to the Carolina Hurricanes and taking defenseman Thomas Blyle. So the Predators come away with Cullen and Blyle in the first round of the NHL Draft. And the Predators have been receiving high marks for the drafting of Cullen and Blyle. And I do chuckle a little bit, guys. We talked about this amongst ourselves yesterday. Grading drafts in the immediate aftermath of a draft doesn't matter if it's the NHL draft, NBA draft, NFL draft, it doesn't matter. I think it's kind of a fool's errand, and that is not to denigrate the people who do that and do a good job of analyzing these prospects, but just for kicks and giggles. I went back to the immediate grade the Predators received for their 2021 draft, and they got a B. And that draft was headlined by Fedor Svechkov and Zachary Leroux, neither of whom are on the team anymore. So although the Predators did get some high grades for their draft, not just in the first round, but throughout the 2 days, I'm just going to ask y'all to pump the brakes just a little bit. I mean, these kids are 17, 18 years old. We talk about this all the time, Willie. It's way too soon to know who these players are going to be if and when they make it to the NHL. But it feels like Wyatt Cullen in particular perhaps demonstrates a new approach to how the Predators could be drafting under Chris McFarland.
I think they definitely took the big swing approach that they haven't always done. And I think that combined with the enthusiasm, the hope of having a new person at the top in Chris McFarland has you probably more optimistic and more ready to dive in and say, yeah, this is what we're talking about. We needed a new guy, that only time is going to tell. You could get all A's in the draft grades, but like you said, it's even tougher. It's probably the toughest in hockey to grade a draft because everybody is basically 18. And Cullen and Blyle were among the youngest, if not two of the top 5 youngest players in the pool. So it's even tougher to project what they're going to look like in 3 or 4 or 5 years when all this is going to matter.
Wyatt Cullen does not turn 18 until September, just to put this in perspective.
And he was so close to the borderline, right? If he had been born like a week later, he would have been in next year's draft pool altogether. But that was something that with both players, the staff looked at as a positive and said they have even more upside based on that alone. The bad birthday. Like sometimes you have your kid when he's 8, and if he's like 10 months older than a lot of the players he's playing against, that's an advantage, even though it's like 10 months. But you have to cut it off somewhere. But there's good birthdays and then there's bad birthdays, young for your age and old for your age. But I think it becomes an advantage. It may not be to go into college, like when Wyatt Cullen suits up for the Golden Gophers, he's going to be really young, playing against guys 4 or 5 years older than him. And he's going to probably have some challenges there, but that's hopefully going to be part of a developmental process.
But this is all a part of it, whether we like it or not. They're going to, grade a draft based on what I have no idea. I guess it's just what they predict will happen moving forward. And then we either all lose our minds or we agree with it, one or the other. Or you just say, hey, I'm just going to wait for it to pan out. But what it does seem like is they're changing the makeup of this team, and they're doing it in a way that I think everyone should notice. They are getting extremely fast, and they're trying to get extremely skilled while they're getting young. And McFarland sees this as this is what the NHL is now. It's just like the NFL, scoring points. It's just like basketball, shooting 3-pointers. Well, we got to find a way to, get some guys on our team that encompasses everything we're looking for, whether it's speed, skill with the puck, toughness. They're trying to get it all rolled in one. If they can't get it rolled in one, they're getting numerous guys with different skill sets to fit this team.
And just go back 1 year. If you want to talk about the difference, just go back 1 year when the Predators drafted Brady Martin with the 5th overall pick. I reiterate that Brady Martin was not a reach at number 5 overall. He was expected to go in that range. But I think Brady Martin was, and this is not meant to be insulting to Brady Martin, I think Brady Martin was the quote-unquote safe pick for the Predators, because when you hear about Brady Martin and what makes him special, you hear about a lot of the things that the Predators historically have coveted. His toughness and his grittiness, and he's willing to crash and bang, and he's hardworking, and all of those things. And you need hockey players on your team who do those things. But I think in the immediate aftermath of the Brady Martin pick last year, if there was a criticism of that pick, it was they did not swing high on skill. They went for something more familiar to them. Let me read to you how friend of the show Rachel Krychak of ESPN.com describes Wyatt Cullen. The son of former NHL player Matt Cullen, who again joins us in about an hour, is one of the best offensive creators in the entire draft class. The Predators have needed some elite talent. Cullen is that and then some. He brings a dynamic offensive toolkit to the Predators, who have a ton of competitive forwards but lack difference-making scoring talent in their prospect pool. Cullen could become a top 6 offensive play driver who makes his line mates better. He is everything the Predators prospect pool needs and will be an integral part of the future in Nashville.
And I think it's important to remember that Wyatt Cullen has weaknesses too. He's got the skill, the elite skill, supposedly, and I'm not talking from having watched him because I haven't, but this is all what you read about him, that he's got that some of that stuff that you can't teach, that elite skill, hockey sense. He's got weaknesses too, but hopefully he can overcome those over time as he gets bigger and stronger. And also, I think with your group of prospects, you're hoping that they complement each other. Like Brady Martin, who on paper, supposedly, you hope is going to be that leader, that driver, that guy that just has all those intangibles. You hope that rubs off well on a Wyatt Cullen. They complement each other. You need guys that are a little bit bigger. You need some guys in between. So that's how you build a really good team. And it's hard to do that because you're trying to project 4 or 5 years down the road. What are all these guys going to look like?
Krychak gave the Predators an A for their draft. Again, I went back because I was curious. I went back and looked at the Athletics 2021 NHL draft grade for the Predators, like the day after the draft was over. And the Athletic, I believe it was Corey Prodman, gave the Predators a B. And he highlighted Fedor Svechkov and Zachary LaRue, who were traded last week for Jack Drury. So again, just because the Predators get an A today doesn't mean it's going to work out that way. But here is what Rachel Krychak wrote at ESPN.com. Again, she gave the Predators an A for their draft. She said, quote, Nashville's first round was excellent as they drafted highly skilled players with top of the lineup ceilings and Wyatt Cullen and Tommy Blyle. Blyle represented tremendous value at number 31 with elite offensive upside because of his skating and puck moving ability. Dmitry Borichev, goaltender, is high-end value in the 3rd round too. The late round selections were nothing to write home about, but the value the team extracted with its first few selections cannot be overstated. There is a decent chance that the Predators drafted 3 NHL players and 2 potential stars. That is exactly the type of start the Predators needed under new GM Chris McFarland.
Then you have plus, and he
Yes.
points out the undersize of Tommy
Blyle.
Excuse me, being
Yes.
undersized yet mobile and smart, and then obviously wide colored, an elite, skilled winger. So it depends. And then you go on another website and it says they've done a masterful class at drafting, and it's like
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
It's like, where are you leading your fan base? Because one person said, "Hey, all right," and then the other 2 people said, "This is the class that is going to return the Nashville Predators back to the state."
Them can just never be happy for the Predators. We know we have no idea what these players are, but you take an A when you can get it. I mean, someone from The Athletic gave them a C+ for the same draft. My point is, I'm not telling you can't be excited. I just think it's foolhardy when people grade drafts right after the draft is over. Nobody knows what these players are going to become. Again, as I mentioned a couple of times, go back to 2021. You might have been happy with a B from The Athletic in the Predators draft. As Willie just said, 2 of the players drafted in the first round are no longer on the team. So things change rapidly in this business. 615-737-1025. A bit of NBA breaking news. The Memphis Grizzlies are trading John Morant. The Grizzlies have traded or are trading John Morant to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. This, according to Shams Charania of ESPN. The Memphis Grizzlies are trading John Morant to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your reaction on the Predators draft. Plus, the Predators did make another trade today. We'll talk about that coming up next as well. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Breaking NBA news before we went to break, because I know there are a lot of Grizzlies fans out there. The Grizzlies have traded Ja Morant to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. That young core, that young promising core of Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson is no more in Memphis. So I don't know too much about the games of Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, but at first blush, this sort of feels like the NHL equivalent of a cap dump. Like, let's just get rid of Ja Morant and take what we can get.
Yeah, he is. He's phased out of their plans. It has nothing to do with his ability to play the game of basketball. It has everything to do with outside of basketball. But yeah, they were just trying to get rid of a guy that wasn't good in their mind for the organization anymore. And they got back, Jeremy Grant, who's often injured, but he put up 18 points last year. And then Chris Murray's just a role player at best. But they are rebuilding this Memphis team. I think they're trying to change the perception of the team.
It's an end of an era in Memphis as Ja Morant is being traded to the Portland Trailblazers. Speaking of trades, the Predators have been active on the trade market in the past week and a half or so. And this morning, they made another trade with the Vancouver Canucks acquiring Niels Höglander for a 2029 third-round draft pick. And the story of Niels Höglander, he's got an umlaut in his name, which makes it difficult to pronounce. But good thing I have a professional broadcaster and Willy Donick nearby to help me with the pronunciation. Niels Höglander. See, I even messed it up despite practicing it multiple times during the break. Höglander has been in the NHL for parts of 6 seasons. He's had 4 head coaches in parts of 6 seasons. The Canucks were an absolute mess this past season. Worst team in the NHL. But Höglander has shown promise. The year the Canucks played the Predators in the first round of the playoffs, Höglander had 24 goals that season. But over the past 2 seasons, he's totaled 10 in 110 games. He's dealt with injuries. He only appeared in 38 games last season. Feels like he's sort of like we were just talking about with Ja Morant. It feels like Höglander is being phased out of the Canucks' plans. But here is a simple way of describing Höglander, courtesy of the minds at JFresh Hockey. I like JFresh Hockey, at JFresh Hockey on X. Niels Höglander, acquired by Nashville, is a two-way winger with good hands who's had trouble producing and getting minutes since his fluke, their word, 24-goal season in 2023-2024. Undersized, but not afraid to mix it up. And to me, Willie, what this is simply the Predators buying low on a distressed asset in Höglander, who, if I recall correctly, was a second-round pick.
Correct.
In his draft year. Again, had a 24-goal season a couple of years ago. They are buying low. They are hoping that they can build him back up. He's under contract for 2 more years.
2 more years
at $3 million per year. So you're not breaking the bank. To me, he slots in as a third-line player. And if you look at the Predators' projected third line right now, which could feature players acquired by the team in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, Ross Colton, Jack Drury, Niels Höglander, that line could be a pain in the ass to play against every night if you're a Predators opponent. But your thoughts, Willie, on the acquisition of Niels Höglander today?
Well, they took the third-round pick from 2029 that they got in the Jack Drury trade and then flipped it to Vancouver for Höglander. So basically, the net result is you get Höglander and Drury for Zach LaRue and Fedor Svechkov. So 2 21, 22-year-olds go out, and those guys were at the stage of their career, first-round picks, nice NHL players, but the Predators are at the point where they don't want to put them as permanent pieces on the roster right now. In other words, they can't send them to Milwaukee without having them pass through waivers. They're probably too good to get through waivers. So you want to get something for them. So those guys move on. You have a lot of other prospects on the way up that you can yo-yo up and down to Milwaukee, which is an important part of the equation. And you replace those two guys with Höglander and Drury, guys who are right in the age range that the Predators are looking for, the mid-20s, 25, 26 years old. And as you said, they're not super expensive, but they're established. I would say it is a correct term to say that the 24-goal season by Höglander 2 years ago was a little fluky. He shot 20%. And there's always a handful of guys that just have that for a particular year, but that's really a tough thing to sustain. So is he a 20-goal scorer? I don't think so. But could he score 12 to 15 in the right role and do other things? Because there is, it sounds stupid because it's about the score at the end of the day. But there are role players that help you win even if they don't score more than 10 or 12 goals. And Höglander, they like his tenacity. They like his ability to forecheck. He's quicker. So they think he will be able to fit. And I do think it's an important point to reiterate that you pointed out, Adam. Last year, Vancouver was in a complete tailspin. They traded Quinn Hughes. They had a new coach. And Höglander was injured and didn't even play until December. So last year was kind of a lost year. So I would not look at his stats from last year and read too much into that. I think he's much more of a player that's kind of in between the 24-goal season 2 years ago and the 8-goal season, or 3 years ago, and then 8-goal season 2 years ago. Would you say, Adam, like at 10, 12 goals, third line player, maybe fourth line is realistic for him?
Yes.
But that's an upgrade on what they're moving out. They're trying to get better on the margins.
And one thing to note, as you mentioned, Willie, just to emphasize that, the Predators have already made 4 trades under Chris McFarland. The ages of the players he has acquired for the team: 29, 26, 25, and 25. And
that's not a coincidence.
And those 4 players, Ross Colton, who's 29, Jack Drury, who's 26, Adam Edstrom, acquired from the Rangers during the draft, is 25, and Niels Höglander is also 25. By the way, Adam Edstrom, 6'7", 232 pounds. So basically Michael McCarron in build.
And he is Swedish, but no relation to David Edstrom, who was one of the key pieces to the.
It must be a common name in Sweden.
Oh, no question.
Like Johnson or Smith here in the United States. But the four players McFarland has acquired, and we can talk about how impactful these players will be because it varies. But 29, 26, and 2 25-year-olds. And as you said, Willie, that is not an accident, because meeting with all of us, Chris McFarland acknowledged that there is a big gap in the age ranges of this Predators team. You've got the 30-somethings, Forsberg, Saros, Stamkos, O'Reilly, Yossi. You've got the young 20-somethings, the up-and-comers, Matthew Wood, that group. Other than Luke Evangelista, you were missing a lot of players in that 24, 25, 26 range. And now you've got a handful more of those players. So McFarland is being, what's the word I'm looking for here? He's emphasizing that age group. So when free agency opens on Wednesday, and we'll talk about free agency either tomorrow, and we'll definitely talk about it on Wednesday because Wednesday is free agency day. The Predators are not going to go out and sign a 34-year-old. Like they've got enough of those. But he is targeting players in that age range. Again, if you want to argue about whether Niels Höglander can be an impact player for the Predators, we can have that argument because he's probably a third liner at best. But at least the Predators are replenishing that group, which so desperately needed it.
Well, he's played more games. So let's just look at it as Drury basically replaces Svechkov on the roster, even though Drury, I would say, is more like a Colton Sissons, Michael McCarron, Eric Halla kind of blend. Would you agree?
Yes.
And I think the same is true of Colton. He's a guy who can play center or wing, so he's versatile, and he has some of those same characteristics. So you're getting that. These are all ingredients that they traded out the door last year, and then they felt like Svechkov really wasn't at a spot. At least that's how they feel now. Svechkov, and I'm rooting for him, man. Nobody is friendlier, more fun than Svechkov. You want to see, from an individual standpoint, him do well. But the Predators felt like he is not ready he is not that established. And so they're getting more guys that have played more and more established. They've done it at the level, and they're in the age range that you're looking for. And then Höglander, I think, gives you a little bit more. He's not a penalty killer, I've noticed. I looked at his numbers. That's the one thing I was curious about. But other than that, he gives you a lot of what Zach LaRue is supposed to end up being. He's not as much of, like, what did you call LaRue's, kind of like affectionately, a rat?
Yes.
Right? I don't think Höglander is that kind of player, but he's a tenacious forechecker that's got a little bit of skill that you hope could chip in offensively, but also help drive play and possession.
615-737-1025. The Predators made another trade earlier today, acquiring Niels Höglander. I'm going to practice that. Niels Höglander from the Vancouver Canucks for a 2029 third-round draft pick. Chris McFarland's fourth trade already for a player since becoming GM and president of hockey operations of the Nashville Predators. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, there was a list that came out last week on NFL playmaking groups. And I think Derek Mason feels like the Titans were disrespected. We'll discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Newt here with you. We just received word that tomorrow on the program, a special Tuesday appearance by Sportsnet NHL insider Elliot Freeman. Our final chat with Elliot for the hockey season.
The
It's
season
sad.
finale.
The season
The season
finale of Elliot Freeman on DMase, Vingan, and Donick tomorrow at 5 because free agency is on Wednesday, and then Elliot is dumping his phone in the lake for like 2 months because he's going to be off from July 2nd through sometime in September. So we will have Elliot one more time to preview free agency tomorrow at 5. Remember, Matt Cullen, former Predators forward, father of 10th overall draft pick Wyatt Cullen, will join us in about 20 minutes as we look back at Friday's first round of the NHL Draft. I'm sure the two of you saw the pictures circulating on social media over the weekend of Matt Cullen as a member of the Predators on the ice in a game more than 10 years ago with his 3 sons, including Wyatt, who famously grew 5 inches this past season, went from 5'8" to 6'1".
Man.
But we'll have to ask Matt about that picture just because of how big his son has gotten, especially recently. But again, Matt Cullen coming up in about 15, 20 minutes. But I do want to take a moment to talk about the Tennessee Titans. Last week, Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com did his annual ranking of all 32 NFL teams based on their offensive playmakers, wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. And in this year's edition, the Tennessee Titans ranked 25th out of 32. It's an improvement year over year from last year when they were last, 32nd in the league. So they move up 7 spots from 32nd to 25. But there's something in here that Derek Mason feels is disrespectful. So Barnwell, as you might imagine, highlights Carnell Tate, Wan'Dale Robinson, the returning Calvin Ridley. But there's a part at the bottom that doesn't sit well with Derek Mason. Bill Barnwell writes, quote, "Of course, if the 3 wideouts don't perform, meaning Robinson, Tate, and Ridley, there's not much behind them. Alec Iamaner and Chim Dike were overmatched in starting roles a year ago. The Titans replaced Chigakonkwo with blocking tight end Daniel Bellinger, and nominal receiving tight end Gunnar Helm averaged just over 8 yards per catch as a rookie. Tony Pollard continues to soldier on as an eminently solid veteran back, but the Titans need Tate to develop quickly to give this offense some much-needed star power." Derek, you are hung up on this sentence. Of course, if the 3 wideouts don't perform, there's not much behind them. Alec Iamaner and Chim Dike were overmatched in starting roles a year ago. Why does that bother you so?
First, yes, Tate has to hit. Hell, he was the 5th pick in the draft. He needs to hit. So that's not saying something that everyone else isn't saying, because automatically he bolsters your pass catching unit tremendously if he does hit, being that he was drafted so high. So that's a no-brainer. I look at the guys behind the top 3. I think it's going to be more about whether Calvin Ridley can stay healthy or not. That's going in if he's going to sort of have these hiccups that he's been prone to have with the Titans over the last couple of years, where he gets the dropsies. So that, more than anything, I think I'm more worried about is how, 1, he stay healthy, meaning Calvin Ridley, and then 2, does he have that period within the season where he's having the dropsies? Because even though I think Tate will become the lead dog, I think it's going to be critical at the beginning that Calvin Ridley is that constant professional, that constant guy, that consistent guy each and every week. That's what your quarterback needs, especially from a veteran guy like that. But then he sort of went behind those guys. And for him to just say, for Barnwell to just say, well, they don't have much behind them, I think that's the lazy approach. You had to understand, these 2 individuals came in being 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks. They were not expected to have the contribution that they end up having during the season. That's not what the Titans expected. One of them maybe to come in and spell, but not both of them. So both of them had to be thrust into a situation where it's not advantageous for a rookie, especially when you're dealing with a rookie with a first-year head coach, an offensive coordinator that's second-year head coach at the time, offensive coordinator that's the second-year head coach that isn't good. So you expect them to go in there. The quarterback is struggling, the offensive line is struggling, and also because of all of that, the wide receivers behind them are struggling. If you look at their numbers, those two stayed consistent through the whole season. There was not this tremendous high and this tremendous low. They stayed consistent based upon the targets that they were getting. Now, I think one of them had a lot of targets in the last game of the season, but based upon what went on during the season, I thought that they remained consistent players and were developing. Now you take two guys that were not supposed to play much, if at all. They get some experience. They know what this league is about. Now you put them in their second year. They know what to work on. A new offensive coordinator, a guy that knows what he's doing, and a guy that's proven that he knows how to put together an offense. So you put that all together with a second-year quarterback. I think their numbers behind the guys that are frontline guys are going to be better than what they were last year. Now, if they don't get the opportunity, it's not because I think they're not good. It's because the guys in the front line are doing so well that they're not going to get as many reps as they did the previous season. But no way do I go into a season thinking, man, if these frontline guys, they ain't got, and I mean nothing. And I ain't even spoke about Gunnar Helm, because I think Gunnar Helm too was put in a situation where he had to play a little bit more than what they expected. But even in that, he, like DK, like Alec, they stayed consistent. Was it these big numbers? No, but they stayed consistent and they stayed developing. So I look for this year for those guys to take another step. That's why I think many in the building are so high on this room. It's not just because of the three frontline guys. It's what's behind them, what they've seen on film that makes them think that we have a complete receiving core. And we haven't had that in a very long time.
I don't know what to expect from Calvin Ridley. I think that's a complete wild card.
Yeah, that's the question mark to me.
So a lot is going to ride on what role he's going to take. But for the other guys, I'd liken it from what you're saying, DMase, to guys that were probably miscast as a number one baseball ace starter or an ace closer. But if you bump them down the ladder just a little bit, you settle in on the right role. I think the fact that they got all those reps on a bad team is hopefully a benefit for having gone through the fire and the exploratory phase of we don't have much. We got to throw you out there. We're going to play you every week. So they got a great evaluation on those guys, and they're not nothing. They've been out there. It's just sometimes hard to decide, like, what is a guy going to look like in that situation on a team that's better? And so I would think if you can bump them down and they find the right role, then you could have a reasonably good wide receiver room.
They don't need those guys, Alec and DK, to be 18 game starters. They don't need them to be. What they need from those guys, and it may not, when you say they don't have much behind them, what they need those guys for is for when the front line guys get tired. We got a little package here, or those guys may go down for a game. You got to come in. So it's good depth.
I don't know. So it's there's good. Not much. That's behind what I'm saying. Those guys started last year.
They started last year. They produced at times. Listen, was it a 1,000-yard season or anything close to it? No. But if you paid attention to this team, I don't think you would have got many 1,000-yard receivers within this offense in the way that they were playing.
They were a mess.
Exactly. So when I look at the guys behind the frontline guys, Ridley, Tate, and Robinson, I see two guys, and it's probably even 3 or 4, but I really see two guys that is going to find their role within this team, and Dabo is going to do a good job in making sure that he works on their strengths and do the things that they're capable of doing at a high level. He's going to work on that. And those guys, you're going to see a difference in Alec. One, I think you're going to see a difference in DK, but he's just an all-around player. But I think you're going to see a difference in Alec and how he approaches it. And I think he's going to end up being that surprise guy at the end of the season.
I also like Helm. I think
Uh-huh.
he really undersells Helm to me. I think Helm could be a significant player in the offense if he finds his role in this, because I don't know how this offense is going to look, who's going to get what role, but Helm can play, I think, as a pass catcher.
It's how does Dabo use his tight ends? And
Yes.
I don't think he's like a tight end in his offense. I don't think ever has, or was he there with Gronk in New England? But he wasn't offensive coordinator then, so it didn't matter. Was he in New England, Dabo? I think he was.
Briefly.
Yeah, briefly. But he wasn't an OC. He was a wide receivers coach or something like that. But we just don't know how Dabo is going to use the tight ends in his offense. And it made the lack of production may not be because Helm can't play. It just may be because how they use the tight ends within the offense.
Let me correct the record. Daboll spent 11 seasons over 2 stints with the Patriots from 2000 to 2006 and 2013 through 2016.
Was it tight ends coach? Or
he was tight ends coach for his final 3 seasons in New England, 2014 through 2016.
Yeah, so it just depends on how they're going to use the tight end within his offense, but I think he's still going to be productive. And I think they got them a good tight end, a good young tight end in Gunnar Helm. But the guys behind Ridley and Tate and Robinson, I think they're going to be fine given their opportunities.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, former Predators forward Matt Cullen will join the program. His son Wyatt was drafted 10th overall by the Predators this past Friday in the NHL Draft. We'll catch up with Matt and learn more about Wyatt coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We are pleased to be joined by our next guest. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com, and welcome in former Predators forward, veteran of more than 1,500 NHL games, three-time Stanley Cup winner, Matt Cullen joins the program. Hello, Matt. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hey, great. How you doing?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you've been on the interview circuit over the past few days talking about your son, Wyatt, being drafted to the NHL by the Predators, 10th overall on Friday night. Now that you've had the weekend to process everything, has it sunk in that your son has realized a dream?
Yeah, it has been nice to have a couple days to kind of just enjoy it a little bit. And yeah, we're thrilled for him. You know, he's our middle son, and it's just been really fun to watch his path. And this past weekend at the draft was just one of those lifetime experiences, and we were just so happy for him. And then, of course, just going to a place that we're really familiar with and know a lot of people and have a lot of relationships, it was just extra special. So yeah, it was great. Overall, it's just been awesome.
There's a picture circulating on social media, I'm sure you've seen it, of you on the ice before a Predators game when you played here about 10 years ago. Your three boys by your side. Wyatt comes up to about your elbow, and now he has shot up to 6'1" after recently undergoing a major growth spurt. For those who don't know, Wyatt grew 5 inches year over year from 5'8" to 6'1". What were the challenges for Wyatt in terms of his development as he grew so quickly, and how did you and he work through that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It was a process for him, you know. So he goes to the U.S. development team, and it's a 2-year commitment. And he was, 5'6" or 7" when he started there. And so, you jump up and you're playing junior hockey as a 15-year-old, and so it was quite a leap for him. And I had a lot of reservations going into it, to be honest. Just worried about his size, but he figured out a way to navigate, playing at that level. And it wasn't easy, but he learned how to handle some difficulties and had to make a lot of changes in his game. And, the timing of his growth was about perfect. He grew a lot last summer. But with that, there's always the coordination stuff. He was always a really highly skilled, smaller player. And then as he grew, the feet and the hands don't always match up together, as you're growing. So he put in a lot of work last summer, and that's kind of the thing that I'm most proud of, is how much he worked at it, and kind of had to spend a lot of time getting the feet and the hands working together again. And then he dealt with some injury stuff early in the year, most likely because of growing so much and so fast. So yeah, he had to deal with a lot, but ultimately when he finally got his feet back underneath him and came back from his injury, he was able to kind of show what he could do. And so no, like as a parent, you kind of see all these things, and it makes it extra special when he is drafted at that spot, and it just, you're so proud of him because everything that he went through.
Both Wyatt and one of your other sons, Brooks, will be joining you at the University of Minnesota this season. You are the director of player development there. How do you balance being coach and being dad? I can imagine that can get tricky sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I've been able to, since I retired, that was kind of the one thing. I just set a lot of things aside so that I could be with the boys, and, they gave up a lot. They had some great experiences, so it's not like they gave up that much, but I was never around their hockey as young kids. So when I retired, I was like, I'm just going to make that a priority. As long as they want me around their hockey, I'll be around it. And so we've developed a great relationship through it all, and I've coached their teams all the way up. So, there's always some things that you have to deal with that dynamic, but I think overall it's been really good. I enjoy coaching, and I really enjoy helping kids. Truthfully, it's the only thing I've ever done my whole life is hockey. So I love sharing my experiences with kids, and I do really enjoy coaching. So when the opportunity came up to jump in with Minnesota and continue helping the boys, but also help these other guys, the rest of the team, at a higher level, it was kind of a cool opportunity. And so no, there's always that dynamic, but I think it's something that we'll be able to navigate. And I enjoy the coaching side of it a lot.
Now, Matt, what was the days leading up like for you and your family? And I know on draft day, I'm sure it was a little bit more intense, but what was it like leading up to that? And then once you saw that your son was getting drafted by the Predators, what were sort of the first words that you and him had after that?
Yeah, it was, the one thing he had worked towards and hoped for was to be drafted in the top 10. I mean, every kid wants that, whatever. So, but it was something that he was really hoping for. So like the day leading up to it is a lot of sitting around waiting, and it's something that's completely out of your control. So there's some nerves, and he was probably more nervous than I've seen him in just about any setting, actually. But we had our whole family there, so we were able to kind of spend some time hanging out and just try to keep his mind off it. But when he was picked, first of all, in the top 10, that was just a huge kind of lifelong goal for him. So he was so excited. And then with the Nashville connection and the memories he had there, it was actually it added so much to it. So he was so excited. I don't think I've ever seen him so happy. It was awesome as a parent to see it.
Matt Cullen is our guest, former Nashville Predator and a longtime veteran of the NHL, 1,516 games in his career. His son, Wyatt, just drafted by the Predators in the first round last Friday. Matt, I'm curious, take me back, best you can remember. I'm trying to bring the picture to life, but the day-to-day with the three boys when you're in Nashville, like I had a dad, a friend of mine, pass along. He can recall your boys playing in the little youth league. I mean, super young at the time, but just zipping around. They were noticeable at the time. But what was the day-to-day when you're a couple years in Nashville?
Yeah, we had the 2 great years there. So they were around the rink a lot. I think if I remember right, they were going to Franklin Road Academy. Maybe we were living down kind of in the Brentwood area. So they would have some school, but they did a lot of different hockey stuff. They played in different. I know they skated over at A Game when that was up and running, and they had some great skills coaches and some guys they played in some leagues there. They just had a great life there. They did the school and they played a ton of hockey, and there was all kinds of leagues, winter, spring, summer, whatever. Like whenever we were there, it felt like they were on the ice. And my wife was always so good at getting the boys to the rink, and they would skate after our practices sometimes, whether it was at Centennial or down at Bridgestone. And they were just always at the rink, and it was just kind of our life. My wife was an athlete and she loved having the boys at the rink, and she knew how much I enjoyed having them at the rink. So it was great. We just had such a great experience. Yeah, they in all the leagues. I don't remember exactly that well. I do remember I was looking back at some pictures of when they were playing youth hockey in Nashville. It was kind of fun.
Matt, you part of the team for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I'm curious how you look at the college game now, because from the Predators' perspective, I'm sure they want Wyatt to develop and advance his game to where he could make it to Nashville sooner than later. But at the same time, you're matching development with the team needing to win at the college level. So what are you seeing from the college game? Because you experienced that yourself way back in the day.
Yeah, college has gotten so much better, I guess, as a level. It's gotten older and more difficult to play in, just because it's, you now are bringing kids in from the CHL and from the U.S. and so it's become so much more competitive. So it's an outstanding league for developing. It's kind of that great step between junior hockey and pro hockey. And yeah, so for him, it's going to be a real push. Like for all these guys, like going into college, coming out of the junior level, is an excellent step. And you see it a lot now. A kid like Porter Martone, for example, was drafted really high. He went and played at Michigan State last year, had an excellent year, jumped into Philly and was a huge impact player for them in the playoffs. And so, yeah, it's a great step. It's a big step. He's young. With his age, he should be going into his senior year of high school. So he's young. He's kind of fast forwarding some things, but I think it's a challenge that he's going to love. It's like I said, it's a great league. It's as close to pro hockey as you're going to get. And so the development is really good. You get, lots of training and weight training during the weeks, and they play their games on the weekends. So you get a lot of development opportunity during the week, and the games are ultra competitive. So yeah, it's a great step for these guys. A kid like Wyatt, especially, who needs to put on some muscle and some meat. It's the perfect level for him to step into, I think.
DMase and I, as dads, you can remember the kids going off to college. I'm curious, are the brothers going to be roommates, or are they going to be separate on the same hall? How is that going to work?
Yeah, they were just in Minnesota here. They had like a 3-week training window before the draft with their team, and they were roommates. So yeah, there were some funny stories coming out of that. I don't know. We'll see. I got to see let the dust settle on that and see how they navigated. But yeah, it's kind of fun. They all three of the boys are really close, and they spend their summers together training and skating. So it's fun. It was actually probably my favorite part of the whole draft, was seeing how excited the two brothers were for him. It was really cool, rewarding as a dad watching it. But yeah, we'll have to see on that.
let that play out. Yeah. I was curious with the growth spurt thing. Did you see it coming? Did you have an inkling that he could move up? That's such a rare thing, but some people, you can do research these days, I guess, to see how tall your son's going to be, that type of thing. Did you see it coming?
Like not really. Like we had, like in our family, we had a few family members that were kind of on that same track that were kind of late bloomers. I was a little bit of a late bloomer myself, not to that extent, but you just don't ever really know. I mean, you could start seeing some signs there his first year at the development program. So a couple of years ago. So you're like, oh, well, hopefully he grows. And you just don't really know, and looking back on it, it's one of those things that you're kind of like, if you have to learn to play the game at a pretty high level as a small guy, you learn how to navigate traffic and how to make quicker plays and be smart. I mean, it kind of helps your hockey sense. And so when you do get that growth spurt, man, you got something pretty special there, I think. But yeah, we didn't really, you didn't really know, but we were happy it came. I'll tell you that. He was.
The U.S. development program, of course, with the U.S. winning the gold and the junior teams have done so well over the last few years. What do you think is the best attribute of the experience there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. Like, first of all, like the training, like in the gym for these kids as they go through these periods of like, they're young kids and they're going through those years of growth. The off-ice training is awesome. I mean, they do such a good job. They train every day. They train really hard. So you do get a lot stronger, faster, bigger. The coaching is excellent. The competition level is really high, so it's difficult. But probably like the biggest thing for these kids as they go through their career, I think, is like they have to learn how to handle adversity. They're all coming from places where they're the best player on their team, and you make this team, and now you're competing every day with the best players in the country. But on top of that, you're having to play against kids that are much older and bigger and stronger. And so you go games without getting points, and you go games where you don't even get close to a win. And so learning how to kind of handle adversity and kind of just dig in and learn how to work through that stuff, I think probably for those kids that look back on it, that's one of the biggest things that they get out of it, and it kind of develop a thick skin and kind of a little bit more resilience as a person, I think.
We'll talk with Matt Cullen, former Nashville Predator forward, played over 1,500 games in the National Hockey League. Now, Matt, I've always told people about my son, he's the best parts of me. He's not the bad parts. Mm-hmm. He's all the best parts of me. What part is it that you see about your son on the ice that you think, man, that's just like me back when I was his age?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, his skill level is beyond what I had. I would just say, I mean, he's a really driven kid. His exterior, you wouldn't know it. Probably he's a pretty calm, level-headed, even kid, but he's such a competitor. He's got an inner drive that is probably, I guess that maybe is what helped me to play as long as I did. And I think when I look at him, he doesn't take no for an answer. And he's a kid that if things don't go well, he'll just get back to work and find a way to make it work. That's probably what I'm most proud of with him. And that's probably what gets me the most excited about his future is I just know he's going to find a way to make it work no matter what. And yeah, so I guess that's probably that. I mean, the skill stuff and the skating is beyond what I was as a player, which is exciting for him. So I can't claim any of that. I'll give the athleticism to my wife. She's a pretty good athlete. So, but yeah, that's probably what I would say.
Matt, before we let you go, and I hesitate to mention this because Predators fans listening will probably be upset with me, but you were on the ice when Patrick Hornquist scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal for the Penguins in Game 6 against the Predators at Bridgestone Arena back in 2017. What do you remember about celebrating that with Wyatt and the rest of your family?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was a huge accomplishment. Obviously, being in Pittsburgh were some pretty fun experiences. It was a back-to-back Stanley Cup. So that was, I mean, for us, it was so meaningful. And for me, those were 2 years. When I finished in Nashville, the 2 years prior, I actually thought my career was going to be done. And so those were kind of those years in Pittsburgh where it felt like a gift. I wasn't ever expecting to play that long. And so we ended up going to Pittsburgh and it worked out and we won a cup and then we won another one. So they were just like, honestly, those 2 years were years that were bonus years that we didn't feel like we were expecting. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. The boys were old enough to really, really understand what was going on and appreciate it. And they were all in on it, living and dying with every game. So, I mean, experiences that a lot of kids don't get. So they were, looking back on it, it was so special to do that with the kids. And it was bittersweet, obviously, being in Nashville. I had so many close friendships and loved the city and the fans were insane. It was like going to that building was crazy. the whole thing was awesome. It was a little bittersweet with some of the friendships we had, but overall for our family, it was just, those are some memories that you just hang on to forever.
Former Predators forward Matt Cullen has been our guest on DMase. Vingan and Donick. Matt's son Wyatt was chosen by the Predators with the 10th overall pick last Friday. Matt, it was great to catch up. Congratulations to your family, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon as we watch Wyatt develop.
Absolutely. Thanks. Good talking to you guys.
615-737-1025. Sorry to bring up some bad memories, Predators fans. But
I mean, you get it in there late. Like everybody's feeling great, smiling.
Exactly.
Hey, what a great interview.
Well,
This is
I
awesome.
will tell you this.
It's like the record scratching of the needle.
I went on to Getty Images because I wanted to see if there was a picture of Matt and Wyatt and the rest of his family on the ice at Bridgestone Arena celebrating the Stanley Cup in 2017. And the first picture that popped up was Matt Cullen directly in front of Pecorine celebrating Patrick Hornquist's Stanley Cup winning goal. So
I still feel like they had an argument for goaltender interference there. And especially in the context of the Predators really scored a goal earlier in that game that got waved off because of just the
Intent to
timing of the
blow.
whistle, the intent to blow.
intent to blow.
I was like, I was just thinking the human element. I was like, you could make up for this. You could balance it out. You took a goal off the board for Nashville. You can have a borderline call go against Pittsburgh, and we're still 0-0.
But
It played, but no such wish. No such wish.
615-737-1025. By the way, one texter says, ask Matt Cullen if he thought Philip Forsberg was offsides in game one.
Don't even bring. See,
I forgot to bring it up. We're going to reminisce about
salt
something.
in the wound.
We are going to reminisce about something that happened 10 years ago today during the 5 o'clock hour, but I did not get that in with Matt. But we appreciate Matt joining us. We'll react to what he had to say. You can as well. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Yeah. Hey, if you've lived in Middle Tennessee for any time, then you've seen how wild our weather can be, from winter storms, tornadoes, to flooding. We've seen it all. Like many of you, the winter storm earlier this year caught me unprepared. I lost power for 7 days. That's 7 days out of my house at a hotel, worrying about whether I was going to come home to some busted pipes or not. That's when I realized being prepared isn't optional. I will be ready the next time a weather emergency happens. So I started looking for whole home generators and found Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. They've been in business for over 30 years, specializing in generators for more than half of those, which is all great. But the reason I chose to reach out to them and ultimately go with them was because of the reviews and the confidence other homeowners shared about their experience with Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. When Tri-State came to my home, they did a free on-site assessment, made sure the generator fit my home for me and my family's needs. The thing I appreciated the most was they didn't try to oversell me. They just got straight to answers, turnkey, everything. They handle everything, which they do, from installation to long-term services. If anything ever goes wrong, I'm not calling around. I'm making one call to Tri-State Water, Power, and Air, because they got me covered, and that's the kind of relationship I want, and I know that's the kind of relationship you want as well. So look, the weather isn't slowing down much. Be ready. Call Tri-State Water, Power, and Air today to protect your home and your family. Find them at tristatewhywait.com. That's tristatewhywait.com.
the game. One texter says, who's in charge of the music today? I acknowledge your wrestling themes. That would be Connor Newt. The theme, Connor?
Night of Champions winners.
Night of Champions winners from over the weekend. So getting your wrestling fix on this hot Monday. Ugh, it's so gross outside. I walked outside this morning and immediately my glasses were fogged up instantaneously. It's that time of the year. Stay safe, stay cool. We really appreciate Matt Cullen joining the program. He played for the Predators near the end of his 1,500 plus game career in the NHL, and his son Wyatt drafted by the Predators 10th overall. Wyatt Cullen, by the way, just coming off the ice at Predators development camp. First day of practice was today. And Willy Donick, you will be calling the Predators development camp scrimmage on Friday.
Oh.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to do that. And I think just based on where the franchise is and where the prospect pool is, this will be one of the more noteworthy ones. I can remember a few years ago when they got Seth Jones, and you kind of had this feeling Seth Jones is going to go right into the NHL. Like everybody wanted to see him. And that's been a little over a decade. They've had a couple other exciting groups, but I think this might be, especially given that Igor Surin is here. I didn't know he's been here before, right after he got drafted, but being in the KHL, I can see him saying, I'm just going to stay in Russia. But he came over. Like, I think that's a great sign of how bad he wants to be a Predator to start next year. He's going to go to the KHL, I believe, and play out the final year of his contract there. But you're going to see the top guys on the ice. Pretty much they're all here. So that's including the guys they just drafted.
The Future Stars game is at 10:30 a.m. Friday at Fordyce Center, Bellevue. We will be broadcasting that game live here on 102.5 The Game. Willy Donick on the call.
DMase and I will be doing the stream on the website. I believe there will just be a radio call. I'm guessing Pete will do it if he's around. Max Hers will be involved in the broadcast, I'm sure. Probably Jay Moore, but we've traditionally done two broadcasts, a radio and a stream.
So you have options.
You got options
on Friday. Yes, some of the notable names at Predators development camp this week: Brady Martin, Wyatt Cullen, Riker Lee, Igor Surin, Teddy Stiga, Tommy Blyle. Let's see who else. Cameron Reed.
Yes.
So
all three of the first round picks last year. Surin. So these are you're going to the top prospects here.
So if you need something to do to stay cool, talking about staying cool, I mean, it's going to be like 100 plus degrees this week.
Go there, spend a couple hours.
There's nothing better than showing up to the rink when it's hot as hell outside in shorts, which I used to do all the time.
And I never understood how you survived, but
I am here.
But you layer up. You go in and put the layer on. It's very refreshing to put on like a sweatshirt when you've been out.
Sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. By the way, now, because of that last question that I asked Matt Cullen about the Stanley Cup final in 2017, the text line is just full of people relitigating
your fault.
The 2017 Stanley Cup final.
You decided to rip the Band-Aid off.
Such as Jackson, who says, what does Matt Cullen think about Sidney Crosby being allowed to throw a water bottle across the ice from the bench?
They missed it.
You deserve this.
I did deserve this, including this text, which is evergreen. Adam, shut up. What is wrong with you? That is the text message we received. So
you should respond with word of the day. I never got that today.
God, well, it's so hot outside. I forgot the word of the day.
It's frying your brain.
The word of the day is umami.
Not umami.
No.
I know somebody else said that was listening to it too.
So you just go ahead. You just went ahead and put it out.
Exactly. I just put it out there because
umami refers to the taste sensation that is produced by several amino acids and nucleotides.
What?
And that has a rich or meaty flavor characteristic of cheese, cooked meat, mushroom, soy, and ripe tomatoes.
I thought it was like a board game.
Umami.
Yeah.
No,
that's what you say when you win. Umami. I win.
No, I think you're thinking of Jumanji.
Oh yeah, that's a movie.
It sounds like that too.
The board game in the movie.
Yeah.
featuring Robin Williams.
Yes.
And then the remake with The Rock
Kevin
and
Hart.
Kevin Hart,
Yep.
because the two of them can't do any movies without the other, apparently.
Hey,
But
money.
yes, well, Derek said what y'all are thinking.
Exactly.
I
I
suppose.
said, as soon as you said it, everybody else said it too.
It's really hard to incorporate the word umami into a sports
No, it's not.
conversation, but maybe I'll figure it out.
No, it's
I've
not.
got an hour and
easy.
15 minutes.
It's easy.
I've got an hour and 15 minutes. Chase McCabe, our fearless leader, has confirmed that there will be the normal radio crew on the radio broadcast
That's what I figured.
of the Future Stars game. You can hear it right here on 102.5 The Game Friday at 10:30.
When you listen to Matt Cullen,
Mhm.
you can't help but just be impressed.
By the way,
by the wisdom.
Great guy.
Mhm.
Great guy.
Great guy.
The wisdom is there. And I've always wondered,
Mhm.
Derek, and you asked him a great question of like, how does he see his son? Because, we grew up watching our kids play. And they're like, hey, that reminds me of me. Or, man, that's
Exactly.
nothing like me. He's way better than me.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. But I've always wondered, how does that factor into the evaluation by a Chris McFarland or Rob Blake or Jeff Kelty, who's running the draft? Like, it has to be a positive, right? Just knowing his experiences growing up and knowing the person Matt Cullen. You're like, I'll bet on that.
Well, it's the pedigree. And you have firsthand account of, playing with his dad or coaching his dad, but then also the kids being around the rink and then watching them as they transition into their sport as teenagers and what they've become now. I think that gives you, that gives you a relief, one, that you believe you're drafting the right player because you followed him for a long time and his dad, so his parents. So this has to be, and I've never experienced it in, frankly, never will unless I have grandkids end up playing the sport that I played. But this has to be one of the most fulfilling things, at least one of them, where, you see your son doing exactly what you did and he's excelling in it and being much better than what you were at the time. That has to be a sense of pride for dad, let alone just, for a parent, let alone just for a dad.
Absolutely. And again, Matt Cullen played more than 1,500 games in the NHL. I believe over 21 seasons.
Whew, goodness.
Won the Stanley Cup 3 times. He is third all time in NHL games played by an American-born player.
21 seasons.
Yes.
Man.
Like, think about this.
That is a long time.
He won a Stanley Cup in 2005
with Peter
2006
Laviolette.
with Peter Laviolette
In Carolina.
And that was as a very young player. And then you fast forward, he won 2 Stanley Cups. After playing for Peter Laviolette in Nashville, he goes to Pittsburgh, and at age 39 and 40 wins back-to-back. So he won the first one at age 29 and then won 2 more at age 39 and 40. That's quite the span.
Well, I remember this past Stanley Cup final, Jordan Stahl, who also won the Stanley Cup with the Penguins in 2009. It was, I think, the largest gap between winning the Stanley Cup and NHL history. But Matt Cullen has to be up there.
He's got to be in the top 10.
He's got to be up there. By the way, Matt Cullen made his NHL debut on October 28th, 1997.
Wow.
For the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim.
That was the season before the Predators.
He and I came in the league at the same year. Yes.
Wow. Matt Cullen debuted in the NHL before there was a Nashville Predators franchise. And I agree. The Predators, the people over there, they know Matt. Not just for the time he played with the Predators. Of course, they know him intimately from that time, but just because of how long he played in the league, I know there is a lot of respect for Matt Cullen. And I do think that had to play a factor in drafting his son. Of course, you're drafting Wyatt Cullen for his skill and his potential, but knowing that his dad played, again, more than 1,500 games in the NHL, won the Stanley Cup 3 times, was a beloved teammate everywhere he went, that has to factor into it. Nate on our text line says, if the Predators make the Stanley Cup final with Wyatt Cullen against the Penguins, I'm putting my house on the Preds to win it all due to karma.
I'll take it.
I don't want to go back through all of that, but
we are going to turn the clock back in just a moment. But if you want to, go right ahead.
There's no question that is still a sore spot from a lot of Preds fans.
Okay, I want to ask you something, Willie. Are they getting better development? Because I think you did ask the question about development at the college level, and how that all goes and how it's changed. But is it better for Cullen to be at Minnesota rather than to be at a AHL team or something like that?
That's a really good question. I think he had, and Adam, check with this, because both of them, he just said his son at a normal age is at the normal age of a high school senior. So I think he could have gone back to the National Development Program for another year and then go to college. But he decided to go ahead and jump in as a very young freshman, which Matt Wood did. He entered the University of Connecticut way back a few years ago, and he was one of the youngest players in the NCAA and excelled, and his draft stock went up. So I think that's what you're balancing. Do you want to continue to play against kids your same age, even though it's the elite players your age, or do you want to jump up and play college hockey where you're going to practice more? You're not playing that many games, but you're playing against guys 4 or 5 years older than you in some cases.
And
in the Big Ten with crowds, the games really mean something. So I think it's a balance that they all offer different things. But I think, as he said, a lot of the best players at that age are gravitating towards college hockey now.
I think because you get a more well-rounded player, I believe.
Yeah.
Because now you're interacting with people not just on a hockey team, but throughout campus.
And you're on a campus. I think that's a great
you don't have to
experience.
be an adult, so to speak.
Yeah, you're in a great environment with all your peers and things like that.
And without getting too much into the weeds, sometimes players who play junior hockey, because of the rules that are currently in place, if they don't stick in the NHL, they've got to go back to junior. And a lot of the time, those kids, they've graduated from junior. They're too skilled for junior. And you're wondering, okay, how much development are they getting when they're just going out there and owning people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it is a really interesting debate. I am not intimately familiar with the college hockey in terms of development and all of that. But the fact that Wyatt and his brother are going to be playing at Minnesota, where Matt is going to be coaching as a player development coach, I think that can only do wonders. And we'll be watching Wyatt Cullen very closely. And if you are in town, you can watch Wyatt Cullen very closely this week at Predators Development Camp, the Future Stars game on Friday, Fordyce Center, Bellevue. You can listen to it here on 102.5 The Game starting at 10:30. 615-737-1025. Quickly, Andrew says, I worked for the Predators from 2014 to 2019. Was, of course, in the building for that devastating Game 6. My memory is the next day I went to work, and the first picture I saw at the Fordyce Center that day was a picture of Patrick Hornquist on the wall in a Preds uniform. Thanks for bringing back this memory, Adam. Look, I'm sorry. I am.
And only Adam went there. The interview was 90% done. He had time for one more question, and he decided
it was 99% done.
Yeah. And he decided the last question we're going to bring up the Penguins winning the.
Okay, you know what?
Hey. Hey, the callers and the texters are calling you out.
Okay, you know what? We're going to turn back the clock. We are going to turn back the clock 1 year further coming up next, because today is oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. The 10-year anniversary of a seismic event in Nashville sports history. I can't believe I'm saying this because I remember everything from that day. And it was 10 friggin' years ago. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. Willy Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Newt here with you on your drive home on this sweltering Monday, the final Monday of June.
It's hot as frog water in here, man.
In
here where
it's
we're
hot,
at.
yes.
Whew, it's smoking.
Not a great day for the AC not to be working.
True, man.
Good thing I doubled up on the deodorant. So I'm covered. So if it stinks in here, it ain't me. It's Willie.
Let's hope it doesn't happen. I feel like my hygiene is okay today, but sometimes we've been wrong, right? We've all been to gym class where you don't want to be that guy, but
it takes that one perspiration, that sweat, and it comes out. And I smell the funk.
Wasn't that a bummer when you had like gym in like second period or third period?
Yes,
and you couldn't resist. You had to go play.
Man.
Like
you had to play hard.
Yeah, it was fun. Then you're like, oh man, I'm sweating.
The rest of the day, I'm sweaty.
Yeah, like what do I do the rest of the day?
Especially when you're playing like pickup or something like that.
And don't let it be in the summertime.
Oh yeah, outdoors.
I went to high school.
Because no matter
Florida,
what, you had to open. If you opened up the windows, it made it even worse.
Oh man, it was a problem.
Well, hopefully we won't have that issue for the final hour of the program. Now, I may or may not have upset some people by bringing up the 2017 Stanley Cup Final with Matt Cullen during our chat in the 4 o'clock hour. Matt's son, Wyatt, now a member of the Nashville Predators, just like Matt was at one point in his long career, drafted 10th overall by the Predators this past Friday in the first round of the NHL Draft. But we are going to turn back the clock because, as I said before the break, I can't believe I'm saying this. Today is the 10-year anniversary of one of the most seismic events in Nashville sports history. The Nashville Predators trading Shea Weber to the Montreal Canadiens for PK Subban. And that was a wild day in general in the NHL because that wasn't the only trade or major transaction that occurred that day. First, the Edmonton Oilers traded Taylor Hall to the New Jersey Devils for Adam Larson. Famously, the trade is 1-for-1. Then the Subban-Weber trade. And then after that, Steven Stamkos agreed to a long-term contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning. There were a lot of rumors out there that Stamkos could leave Tampa. He ultimately re-signed with the organization, and when that contract expired, he ended up here. But I thought it would be fun to reminisce about that day because I have vivid memories about that day because I was on the Predators beat for the Tennessean on June 29th, 2016. I was thinner. I had more hair. I was single, but it was a crazy ass day. But Willie, I want to start with what you remember about learning about that trade for the very first time. I remember Robbie Stanley. He was at Five Guys. I remember him telling me that story. He was at Five Guys when that trade broke. You remember what you were eating 10 years ago today. But what do you remember about that day?
I have vivid memories myself. I was actually driving to this studio where we are right now at 102.5 The Game, and I got a text from Stu Grimson, and he said, we just traded for PK Subban. And I was like, whoa. I was just a text. I was literally on Murfreesboro Road about to turn into the parking lot, probably 5 minutes before our show went on the air. And then sure enough, I thought, I was like, could this possibly be true? They traded Shea Weber? That was, and for PK Subban, that's like a fantasy hockey trade. You know, that's like a, would you, for discussion, swap one for the other. So it was a bombshell. And also because of just how much Shea Weber meant to the franchise at the time. And you brought in a guy that it was a supernova of a personality in PK Subban. So it had ripples all the way across the hockey world. And we basically just, the rest of our show, the whole show was that trade. And we tried to get people on. We tried to wrap our arms around it. That was amazing. And I still think historically, I don't think they would have done it had it not been for the contract that Shea Weber signed, the offer sheet that he signed with Philadelphia, which was, did we determine it's still in play? This is the last year of it, I think.
I think tomorrow
It
is
expires.
the last day.
Wow.
I think tomorrow
Okay.
is
So
the
Shea
final
Weber's free.
day.
He's not on some random team's roster with that contract.
He is free.
Okay. Which
Yes.
which also, that's interesting.
That's insane, by the way.
Because-
That's insane too.
I do wonder if Shea
14-year contract.
Oh wow!
14-year
I ain't signing
contract.
that no more.
the Flyers tried to make it so ridiculously crazy that the Predators wouldn't match it, but they did
Mhm.
because they just did not feel like they could lose Shea Weber. He was that valuable, and they had lost Ryan Suter to unrestricted free agency the year before. So I think that was a big factor in making the move. PK Subban was younger. His cap hit was actually higher, but his contract wasn't
Yes.
the same kind of length.
Subban's cap hit was $9 million, and Weber's was around 7.5.
I think 7.87 is what pops into my head. I'm not sure if that's right. But it was a very intriguing trade.
Yeah,
Shea Weber had,
7.857.
so he had
Close to
some
8.
ups and downs injury-wise with Montreal, and then of course had the great season where they got to the Stanley Cup final. That was sort of his last hurrah. He did everything he could to be healthy enough to play during that run, and then he just wasn't physically able to do it after that. So it's a great what if. What if they had not done it? But the Predators got 3 great years from PK Subban before they traded him, and it was the 3 best years. I don't think you could even argue the 3 most successful years in Predators history.
And he comes to town. Subban comes to town a few weeks later because if memory serves, he was in Paris when this trade went down. PK Subban was. So when we talked to him on a conference call, he did it from Paris. So it was late at night when we spoke to him about the trade. But a few weeks later, he comes to Nashville. He famously goes to Tootsie's and sings Folsom Prison Blues on stage at Tootsie's. But it was, I just remember that whole summer and especially the beginning of the season being an absolute blur, because anything and everything I could write about PK Subban, I was, because the appetite for PK Subban coverage was insatiable. And PK Subban was one of the first athletes I encountered in my job who had a personal fan base. Like,
Yeah.
He, of course, had the Montreal Canadiens fan base behind him. Not all of it, but a lot of it. But he also had his own fans who I talked to so many people who stopped being Canadiens fans and started being Predators fans because of PK Subban. He was an enormous personality, the likes of which the Predators had never experienced. And especially when you consider how that contrasts with Shea Weber, who is the polar opposite of PK Subban as a personality. So it was a culture shock for the organization as it was for everybody around here.
But they got some of the best years out of it. I think in that situation, you got to tip your hands to the Predators because I don't think since that trade, there's been a trade of that magnitude by the Predators. Swapping one guy out for another. You're talking about a young Norris Trophy winner for a guy that's been a staple and a Norris winner, I believe, with your team. Now, the contract may have been something different, but I don't think they've made a trade like that since. And this guy being so polarizing in a good way. Y'all talked about he brought his own fan base, and he was something that the Predators hadn't seen, and still to this day don't have a player on their team with that gravitational pull that Subban had for this team, and not only off the ice but on the ice. I think he was a hell of a player his times here.
Well, here's the interesting question now, and we can do this with the benefit of hindsight because both players are out of the league. Who won the deal?
I think the Predators did.
But what's interesting is, and Willie, you tell me if you agree with this. I think the quote unquote winner it's changed over time. I think in the immediate aftermath of the trade, I think people thought that the Predators won the trade because they got younger by swapping Weber for Subban. The contract wasn't as long. And Subban, as you both mentioned, 3 really good seasons here. They went to the Stanley Cup final. They won the President's Trophy. He was a Norris Trophy finalist, but he did not last in Nashville as long as Shea Weber lasted in Montreal. Shea Weber became the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, which is a prestigious honor in the NHL. Think about all of the all-time greats who were the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. And Shea Weber did also go to a Stanley Cup final, the final year of his career before his body broke down. But I think this trade is really fascinating from that aspect because I think over time, the winner has changed.
I still think that the magnitude of that trade, I remember searching the annals of not just hockey, but all of the major sports and tried to say, based on where the two of those guys were at the peak of their careers at the time, has there ever been any bigger one-for-one swap in sports history? I think you could put it right up there. Definitely among hockey. I think it was that big. And so it's a great question you're asking. The only reason that I would say, because I've had a lot of people that over the years, from one time or another, they bring it up. If you could do it over again, would you do it? And to me, the tiebreaker has always been they got out from under the aging years of the contract. And so that's why I would side with the Predators. It's splitting hairs. They also got out from under PK Subban's contract at the right time and took the money to sign Matt Duchene. So I think when you put all of that together, I would say I'll take the Predators pathway, but they paid a price because Shea Weber really took it hard. He did not want to be traded. He was the Predators captain. He did not want to be traded by Nashville, and he was down. He was down on Nashville for a number of years. He's come around a little bit, and now that the contract expired, I do wonder, because you don't have to play around anymore. There used to be this, he's still in the league, even though he hasn't played in years, but you couldn't really talk about it. You couldn't hire him. I wonder if there is going to be a hockey job for Shea Weber in the Predators organization, similar to Pekka Rinne, because he holds that kind of magnitude. But it was kind of whispered for a while. It's been down in the backdrop because it was a difficult subject for a while. And even after it became a little better in terms of the relationship between Shea Weber and the Predators, you still couldn't do anything officially because he was still technically under contract in the league.
And I remember that season, that 2016-17 season, I actually took time away from the Predators beat to go to Montreal to talk to Shea Weber because I think it was January of 2017, early January 2017, when the Canadiens came to visit for the first time since that trade happened. So I went to Montreal early to sit down with Shea Weber to talk to him for a story that I published right before he came back. And I remember just how raw those feelings still were. You could tell without him saying anything how betrayed he felt by the trade. He ultimately embraced Montreal. Again, he became the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. I also just remember how special that his return was. The video they played for him when he came back, tears on the bench. When you think of Shea Weber, you don't think about tears. He teared up during that video. So it was an incredibly, just thinking back to the fact that it's been 10 years ago today. Here's a fun trivia question for you. How many teams paid Shea Weber over the course of his contract?
Oh,
Well,
so
I got it
many
in front of me, so that's kind of
Well, don't say it then.
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay, so let's see if we can just go down the list.
Okay.
So it's Nashville, Montreal.
Correct.
Mhm.
And then I'm just going to start as I remember them. Was Vegas in there at some point?
Yes, the Canadiens traded his contract to Vegas.
Arizona at one point.
Yes, now Utah.
Okay. There are others.
There's one
Chicago?
more. Yep,
One more.
that is correct.
Yep.
What was the other one?
Chicago.
Chicago.
So
I wouldn't have gotten that
technically, Shea Weber was a member of the Chicago
The
Blackhawks.
hated Blackhawks.
Can you imagine if Shea Weber actually played for the Chicago Blackhawks?
one. For some reason, I thought the Sharks were in there somewhere, but no.
No, Carey Price had his
Carey
contract
Price.
traded to the
Okay,
Sharks.
so who had because you said that the sort of who won the trade debate has shifted.
I think
changed.
over the course, well, like,
But who won? Who do you think in the 3-year period from 17, or it might have been 3 years from 3 or 4 years from 17 to 19 or 20? 19. I think it was 17 season to the 20 season. Who had the better run for their team?
Well, I think PK Subban, his first season, Stanley Cup final. Second season, President's Trophy, not Predator's Trophy. President's Trophy. I can't remember which year in there. It may have been the year of the President's Trophy, Willie, that Subban was a Norris Trophy finalist.
Yes.
Weber was never a Norris Trophy finalist for the Montreal Canadiens. But to me, like, when the Predators traded Subban and Weber played for the Canadiens longer than the Subban played for the Predators.
Yeah.
I think when the Predators traded Subban and Weber was the captain of the Canadiens, and they made that trip to the Stanley Cup final in the COVID year where everything was all, mixed up. I think it started to shift more towards the Canadiens because the Canadiens got more years out of Shea Weber than the Predators
But we're
got out
talking
of
about
Subban.
play, like on ice. Yeah, the years, because those final years were basically throwaway years. I know they end up making
it's hard for me. It's hard for me not to declare the Predators the ultimate winner of the trade for some of the reasons that Willie mentioned. The fact that they were able to get out of the significant financial commitment to Shea Weber when his body was in the process of breaking down. They got a younger player who did not have as many years on his contract. And again, Shea Weber's contract, that monster contract, expires like tomorrow. That's how long ago it was signed. 14 years. It was a 14-year contract. So again, it is astounding to me that it's been 10 years since the Predators traded Shea Weber for PK Subban. 615-737-1025. I would love to hear y'all's memories from that day because I'm sure a lot of you have vivid memories like the rest of us. Where were you when the Predators traded Shea Weber for PK Subban? How did you feel immediately? How did you feel after a couple of years? 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction and continue the conversation coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, The Game.
All right, let's talk Twice Daily. Brand new sponsor on the show, and I hope you've taken me up on that mentality of looking for the rewards. If you've got one of those days going, you're like, you know what? I've got to stop off. I got to get something quick. Remember the Twice Daily Rewards program. If you're a part of it, you get special discounts. You get special savings. You enter into sweepstakes, and you got a whole lot of other benefits as well. So it pays to be a member with Twice Daily. There's a lot of convenience stores, but if that can be your go-to, you're going to earn points and save money with every visit. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for convenience, Twice Daily has you covered. And don't forget about the pizza. You're in a pinch for dinner tonight. You can order it. You can get it ahead of time. You can grab it in the store or even get it directed right to your home. Get it delivered. One less thing to worry about. It's Twice Daily. Pizza's easy, even when life isn't. Twice Daily. Fresh all day.
DMase, Vingan and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Reminiscing 10 years ago today, one of the most seismic moments in Nashville sports history. The Predators trade Shea Weber for PK Subban. I've got a couple of more memories to share of my own, but let's get to yours. 615-737-1025. Maddie says, there are 3 real gut-wrenching moments in Nashville sports history where I had to question my faith in the organization. McNair going to the Ratbirds, a.k.a. the Baltimore Ravens, Derrick Henry not being re-signed, and the Weber for Subban trade. All 3 were moments I had to stop and truly collect myself. I still haven't forgiven the Titans, but came around on the Weber trade eventually once I understood it better. One texter says it definitely seemed like Weber was in a happier headspace when he went back to Canada. Craig says it's hard to see anybody but Shea Weber ever being my favorite Predator. One texter says I was at work on the day that trade happened. My boss at the time happened to be another big Predators fans. We were both mouth agape for a few minutes trying to figure out what had just happened and what David Boyle was on that day. Prior to PK coming here, I had a slightly negative view of him with the showboating and just a brashness of his personality. Once he became a Predator, though, I embraced it. Maddie also wants to say a 4th moment in Nashville sports history where he had to question his faith in the organization when Derek went to the Ravens as well.
Well, unfortunately, that's what happens in the world of sports.
Yes.
You know, your favorite players sometimes get dealt away or not re-signed. But losing faith in the organization, man, gosh.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure I know at that time it was like, wow.
I mean, Shea Weber,
yeah, he was huge.
Shea Weber
yes.
was the Nashville
Exactly.
Predators for a very long time. When you thought of the Nashville Predators, you thought of Shea Weber. You also thought of Pecorine.
It was really those two.
Yes,
don't you think?
it was
So I
those
think
two.
Those were the 2 of the biggest trades in just sports, Nashville sports history, at least professional sports, when you talk about Shea Weber and Steve McNair. Those 2 guys and what they meant to their organizations. And they both were still playing pretty good football. Well, football and then hockey. I mean, hockey, obviously.
One texter says, y'all forgot how Montreal screwed PK on his no trade clause. They traded him 48 hours before it kicked in, and he didn't get to carry it to Nashville. Could happen to Ross Colton for everyone freaking out about the no trade clause that CMAC gave him. If he trades him before next July, there's no protection. We'll get to Ross Colton's contract, or Jack Drury. It says Ross Colton. You meant Jack Drury. We'll get to Drury's contract in just a moment. But there was a time, I don't think you can do this anymore. Mm-hmm. But back then, if a player with a no movement or no trade clause in his contract was traded before the clause took effect, the acquiring team could decide whether to honor that trade clause. So the texter is right. PK Subban did not have trade protection in his contract until July 1st, 2016. So he had no say over the trade. And the Predators at the time chose not to honor his trade clause. So that's how they were able to trade him to the New Jersey Devils 3 years later. I don't think you can do that anymore. I think if a player has a no trade clause or a no movement clause and the player waives the clause to go somewhere, the clause travels with him to the new team. But back then, Willie, it didn't. And the Predators took advantage of that.
I didn't remember that, but yeah, I'm sure that was not insignificant. And also, I think it's worth recalling this was a tough moment, but remember the Predators had won a very dramatic 7-game series to end 2016. The 2015-16 season was a good season, right? They won the first round against Anaheim, won Game 7 on the road against the Ducks, then turned right around and went up the coast to San Jose and played another 7-game series. This time they lost Game 7 in the Shark Tank.
And Weber was bad.
It was just a nightmare game for
but
everybody.
Especially.
Shea Weber and Pecorine, I'll never forget the frustration that they felt because of how bad they wanted to win.
That was Pecorine smashing his goalie stick into as many pieces as possible, and then flinging it into the corner, and Carter Hutton had to come in to clean up the mess, literally and figuratively, at the end of the game.
And I think everybody's emotions were the same. It was just a shocking.
Shea Weber was in tears in the dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, and that series had been so close all the way through, and just to have that kind of game 7. So I have no idea if that swayed them either way on that trade, but that was the last game that Shea Weber played for Nashville.
Yes,
crazily.
It was
because it was like that just wasn't him.
Arguably his worst game in a Predators uniform.
Yeah, I think you could say that, especially how great a player he was, and also the magnitude of that game.
Yes,
it just went wrong.
Jack says the beginning of the banner era of the Predators, the trade of Weber for Subban. George says Weber's fancy stats as an offensive driver were also in decline, and they had been reported. Still a workday disrupting shocker. I mean, absolutely. Even for someone whose job it was to cover the team, it was I
think analytics have evolved.
Yes, they were rudimentary at that time.
Yes, and I remember a lot in those 2 or 3 years, because you were talking about the Norris DMase. Shea Weber 2 or 3 times, I thought, should have won the Norris when he was with the Predators, and lost out because I don't think the voting was quite as advanced as it is now. And some of the analytics were not kind to Weber. And I still think there was kind of that notion of, let's just take the guy that's got the most points. Like there was one year Erik Karlsson won it. One year Nick Lidstrom won it as an older player. I think it was a little bit more of a vintage, big market thing. But one way or the other, I thought Shea Weber should have won a Norris in there. But one of the reasons he did it was because some of his strengths were not really showing up in the analytics of the time. Like in the defensive end, the eye test and the reputation around the league was, oh my gosh, I cannot stand playing against Shea Weber. He's going to kill me. He's going to pummel me every night. I hate playing against him. But that didn't show up in the analytics, really.
Here is one of my most vivid memories from that day. We all go to Bridgestone Arena after the trade has been made official so that we can talk to David Poile. And at the same time, after we talk to Poile, we're going to gather in a conference room and have a conference call with PK Subban, who, as I said, if I recall correctly, was in Paris the night of the trade. So we gather in the conference room. I'm there. Robbie Stanley is there. Jim Diamond is probably there. A lot of people who cover the team are there. And the conference call starts, and all of these people start calling in from Montreal because it's a gigantic story in Montreal as well. And PR was trying to get people to mute their phones because on the conference call, you just heard the playback from a French language Montreal sports talk station. And despite multiple requests to mute your phone, you just heard loud French sports talk. And eventually PR got mad.
Did anybody try to convey the message in French?
I don't know, but
maybe that was the problem.
But at one point, PR got mad and said, all right, we are hanging up the conference call and we are only going to do it for people who are in this room in Nashville. And I will always remember this because I still consider him a friend. I still talk to him to this day. Eric Engels, who reports on the Montreal Canadiens for Sportsnet. You hear him right before PR hangs up the phone going, what the and it cuts off perfectly at the It always makes me laugh, even 10 years ago. But we got to talk to PK Subban again from Paris, and that was the beginning of the PK Subban era. Let's, as we continue to take your thoughts on this, let's touch on something another texter brought up. Yesterday, the Nashville Predators re-signed Jack Drury. They traded for him last week from the Colorado Avalanche, and the deal that included Fedor Svechkov and Zachary Leroux, and he was a restricted free agent. The Predators signed him to a 5-year contract with a $4.5 million cap hit. So, on the surface, Jack Drury is making as much money per year as Ryan O'Reilly.
Oh, wow.
But as we have hammered home with all of you for months and months and months, the salary cap is changing rapidly. NHL teams have a lot more money to spend. $4.5 million today is not the same as $4.5 million in 2023 when Ryan O'Reilly signed his 4-year contract with the Nashville Predators on the first day of free agency. This is going to be the going rate for a third line center going forward. Now, he was a fourth line center, Drury was, in Colorado. Probably not going to be a fourth line center here. Probably going to be a third line center. But Willie, in today's NHL cap world, $4.5 million is probably what you're going to have to pay for a high-end third line center.
It's a different market. And I don't know that I have seen a marketplace in a sport jump as rapidly as the NHL one is these days because of the salary cap is such a strict salary cap. It was frozen for years after COVID as they made up the revenue, and then it has now spiked up and will spike again next year. So you have to remember that in the context. So we tried to prepare you. And I'll even say that I was trying to prepare everybody a couple years ago with the UC Saros contract. I kept telling everybody that contract is going to age well in terms of the market changing. It's going to take up a very small percentage of the salary cap compared to what Pekka Rinne's contract did years ago. So it is not a bad contract, especially the way the market is changing. So the goalie market is going to reflect that at some point. I don't think it's going to be this summer, but eventually that's the case. But yeah, Jack Drury, we warned you. It's going to be more expensive, but that's kind of what it takes. And the first clue I think this year was Michael McCarron's contract that the Minnesota signed him to.
So Jack Drury's $4.5 million cap hit represents 4.33% of the salary cap. Remember that number, 4.33. Okay, hold on. I'm pulling up Ryan O'Reilly right now. When Ryan O'Reilly signed, his $4.5 million cap hit represented 5.39% of the salary cap. So it's not a huge jump, but
significant.
It is not insignificant.
So it has you asking a couple questions going forward. What's Ryan O'Reilly's next contract going to be, especially the fact that he's got 1 year left? And do the Predators look at that this coming summer and say, is it worth barking up that tree and trying to lock him in for another year or two? Or do they just let it ride? And then the other guy that I think is the most intriguing is Luke Evangelista. He will be a restricted free agent like Drury was this just now next summer when his $3 million cap hit expires. Get ready. Luke Evangelista is going to get a very big raise, especially if he comes anywhere close to matching the numbers he had last year. And while they're not earth-shattering numbers, the going rate for a, quote, top 6 guy, really more like a second-line guy, really, when you get down to it. Maybe he's got another level in him, but at the age he is, he's going to go up. So do the Predators want to lock him in this summer or roll the dice and see what it looks like next summer? I'm not sure. That's a big thing that I am curious about.
615-737-1025 will continue to take your thoughts on the 10-year anniversary of the PK Subban for Shea Weber trade, one of the biggest sports moments in Nashville history. 615-737-1025 will wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. DMase, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Willy Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Whew, it's hot. The air conditioning
Smoking Joe Frazier.
not working right now. As I said, I doubled up the deodorant, so I feel like I'm okay. But I don't like being hot.
I still smell good. I'm good. I'm good. I had to smell myself.
Does anybody else hate the Does anybody else hate the summer?
Self-check.
I love the summer.
Oh, I love the summer.
Oh, I love it.
Summer might be my least favorite season.
What?
Yeah.
Man.
I don't like it being this hot outside. But you know me, and this is what Derek likes to make fun of me for. I'm one of those sickos who likes that 6-week stretch in like November and December where it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, something's wrong with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like being
We've
cold.
established that. Something is wrong with you with that.
Yes. I like being cold. I don't want the ice storm that we had in January or
thanks.
whenever that is, but I like being a little cold. I like bundling up.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Well, you know what it does because my name's on the show. So if I want to say I hate,
Just give your opinion.
if I hate summer is definitely 4 out of 4 on the season list for me.
Wow, summer, man.
I'm going to go fall, spring, winter, summer.
Nah, I would say spring, summer, fall. I just skip winter. We can skip winter. We could just skip it.
It's just awful. It's
We could
awful
just
out
skip
there.
it.
I mean, there was not like I went to my local Y, Willy's Y as well yesterday, and the pool was prime real estate. There was nowhere to move if you went.
I was gonna, yeah.
If
it is
you
a
went
very
in the
popular
pool,
place.
if you went in the pool yesterday, there you guys were right on top of each other. One texter says, "Adam, I hate summer. Anything above 80 is too hot."
No, it's
Now
not.
I can do 80. It's like this week. It's like 95 feels like 106.
I'm like Bane when it comes to hot weather. You remember when Bane was like, "I was born in the darkness." He
Yeah,
thrived in the
Batman?
dark. Yeah, Batman.
Molded by it.
I was molded by the hot weather. I've been out on fields where it's been.
You were molded by the
110.
hot weather in Michigan.
Yes, I'm talking about just like being on the field. That was when I had to be on the field when nobody else was on the field, and it was 100 and something degrees in Michigan. That was like you could add like 100 days to that.
It takes me back to my freshman year in high school when I was in band camp. Yes, I was in band camp.
Was it hot in band camp?
Well, the problem was it was hot as hell, and we were practicing in the parking lot.
Ooh,
So we were on asphalt, which
Even
makes
hotter.
it even hotter.
yes.
And I was not a thin young man in high school. So it was not a pretty sight.
I was the person that when it was 100 degrees, I still wore a long sleeve shirt
Why?
and tights because I thrive in the heat.
Okay.
Molded by.
All right.
Okay. Can we? I want one question answered here. Give me your overall band camp experience. Fun?
It wasn't like
You said
American
band
Pie.
heaven
It
or
wasn't
band
like
camp?
American Pie,
No?
if you're asking.
Well,
wasn't?
that's the famous scene
Yeah.
that has
Yes. It was
changed everybody's view of band camp
Like
forever.
It was not like American Pie.
But was it something like your parents forced you to do, or you're like, okay, I can do band camp or was it like
So-
required? By
So
your
in
band?
high school, my freshman year in high school, I was in the band in high school. And if you wanted to be, there were multiple levels of band. And if you wanted to be in the top band,
Mhm.
like I was, because I was outstanding
you were a
Trom-
talent.
trombone player, first chair all city, 7th grade.
Nice.
Woo woo.
I was a high level trombone recruit. Okay. If you wanted to be in the top band, you had to do marching band. It was required for you to be in marching band. So that's why I had to do band camp. And then the following year, entering my sophomore year in high school, it was changed from required to highly recommended. And I went into Mr. Wills's band office. He was the band teacher. I went to Mr. Wills's office and said, "Mr. Wills, if it's not required and only highly recommended, I'm not doing it."
So
And
who?
It's like OTAs.
So
Yes.
who had the juice? Like which instrument guy had the juice?
Like which
Which-
specific
yeah,
instrument?
yeah.
Was
Who
his
had
name
Who are the
Vingan?
playmakers?
Yeah, who was the play?
Did
Was it the
Vingan have that kind of
trombone?
juice?
No,
Was it
the trombone,
drums? Who was it?
the trombone, it's a rhythm instrument.
Okay.
Okay. So you're not getting a lot of solo work, right?
Okay,
You're
okay.
providing You're providing the
Background.
baseline. You're providing the baseline.
You're the
Okay.
O-line.
Every
Okay,
now and then,
okay.
Meat and
every
potatoes.
now and then, you would get a solo here or there.
Mhm.
But you were the role players.
Okay.
The playmakers, the stars, the trumpets.
Okay.
Trumpets were big. If you
Okay.
were a trumpet player,
You was that dude.
right? You were saxophone.
Oh, you had everybody was falling at
Like
your
a
feet.
young Kenny G on
Yes.
your band.
Exactly.
All the hot girls played flute and clarinet.
Okay. Okay.
All the guys girls played brass instruments as well,
Okay.
like trombone and tuba and baritone.
Okay.
Know.
All right. I like that. Connor, did you play a instrument?
I
Were you in the band?
was a trumpet
You
in
was
middle
trumpet?
school.
Middle
Yeah.
school?
I was always more of a singer though.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
I had the
Interesting.
pipes.
Would
Okay,
you
got
like
the
to
pipes,
perform
okay.
something for us?
No.
Okay.
If you take me to a bar on like a Friday night and give me 2 3
Are you
beers,
old
I'll
enough
get
to
it
go into a bar?
Exactly.
Ha! Funny. Good one.
No, we're telling the truth. Are you? No.
He is barely. He is barely legal.
I went to a bar with all 3 of you for a Christmas
Oh
party.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you
but
might have
that's
snuck
different.
in.
I didn't have the X's on my hands.
They put 2 X's on you. That kid can't drink.
Give him a
Oh,
water.
man.
Exactly.
But that year in marching band, we did symphonic Beatles.
Where was it? Where did y'all have your camp at?
Well, it wasn't camp in
Uh-huh.
the traditional
yeah.
sense.
Not a sleepover camp.
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
was. We spent multiple hours every day in the hot ass summer
Oh.
practicing the symphonic Beatles in the high school parking lot to be ready for football season.
2 a days.
So y'all basically was in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
That's no camp.
Exactly.
it was called band camp.
It's like boot camp.
That is just a band get together.
Yeah.
That's not a band camp or band practice. That's what that was.
Yes, it was. It was
I see
bad.
a good band camp would be like work
Yeah.
hard, play hard.
Like you get bused
you work-
there.
Again.
Go to somewhere fun.
Yeah.
Practice all day, and
American
then
Pie.
hit the
American Pie
sights.
warped people's perception
guess
of
it
band
did.
camp.
Yes.
No band camps are like that.
There has to be
None that I
something.
know of, at
Okay.
least. None that I went to. But so this just reminds me of band camp. Just being out here in the
So
sweltering
you
sun.
have a bias against summer because of band camp.
Yes.
That's what we figured out today.
not only because of band camp, but by and large.
Did you have to wear corduroy shorts? in the
No.
summer?
I mean, I'm wearing corduroy shorts today.
And overalls.
Anything else you want to make fun of?
I didn't even know that.
I'm wearing
Adam.
corduroy shorts right
I
now.
didn't even notice that. I was just
Mhm.
asking because you have a problem with the heat. So I'm like, maybe his mom made her wear
I,
corduroy
I
shorts.
got some linen. I'm
Okay,
not wearing it
wrong.
today,
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
but I got some linen.
Okay.
All right.
We just had a very interesting development in the World Cup. We had the soccer equivalent of goaltender interference. We've had 2 very dramatic games. This is the real deal now.
The goaltender then writhed on the field for 15 minutes.
right? But you have no.
I'm only kidding slightly.
not quite, but
It happened.
you've had now. If you lose, you're out. So we're into the knockout stage for those that are casually following
Germany
the tournament.
versus Paraguay.
Yes. Brazil won in a very tight game against Japan, 2-1. It was they were behind. Brazil was. They tied it. Eventually won it very, very late. They're in extra time now. Germany just scored an apparent go-ahead goal against Paraguay that was waved off basically for goaltender interference. There was contact with the goalkeeper. He tried to bounce back up and make the save. He couldn't. It looked like Germany had taken a big lead, 2-1, huge goal. They went to video review and overturned the goal. I think it was the right call. But Paraguay, who got absolutely waxed by the USA in the first game, is taking Germany right to the brink here. So I don't know if that's a sign that this is another sign that the USA can play with the big boys, but Germany is always in the mix when it comes
Man,
to
they
World
got
Cup.
tackled.
And by the way,
Goodness.
the United States plays Bosnia-Herzegovina later this week in knockout round
Yes.
action in
This is where
Santa
it's
Clara,
all
California, home of the 49ers. If the U.S. were to advance, it would play the winner of Belgium and Senegal in the round of 16 with a potential matchup against either Portugal or Spain.
Oh, that was close. That was close. Sorry, Adam. Oh,
That's
that was
okay.
close.
a potential matchup with Portugal or Spain looming beyond that, which would be something.
It is a fun. I continue to encourage people, even if you haven't watched a whole lot, just jump in. It is fun. The drama, the fans, the nuttiness. I mean, the pageantry. You know what I'm talking. We've talked about it some. I love the and this is my little note of the day. We've had fun with some of the individual fans that have put great posts up there. Adam, you've done a really good job of staying on top of what's hitting the pop culture. My thing to watch for is look at the wardrobe of the different coaches, or I guess you call them the managers, right, of the soccer teams, the head guy. I've seen, like today, Germany's coach has got a T-shirt on, just a navy T-shirt. Maybe it's black. I don't even know. The Germany's got, he's got those fiery colors. This guy's just got a T-shirt on. Other guys have a full-on suit, even if it's like 95 degrees.
Who would you be?
Full-on suit. I would not wear a suit.
Okay. T-shirt.
And then you got the USA guy. And Adam, you made this observation, which is common to a soccer fan, but a lot of the coaches aren't from the country that they're coaching, right? I don't think you would do that in a lot of other sports, but in soccer, it's quite common to have a coach from another country coaching your team. I forget where the USA guy is from, but he's got a distinct look. He's got like a button-down, short sleeve, kind of dress shirt, but not really. It's just kind of like a laid back thing you might wear to a cookout.
He can go out and have a drink afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Just he's loose. You see, there's the German coach. Look at him. He just got a black T-shirt on. It's crazy.
It's like he just woke
like, is
up.
that the coach?
We should end the show on this text from Dylan in Antioch on Bandcamp. So, Adam, no action involving flutes, but you were a tromboner. Technically, I believe the term is trombonist.
Okay.
But, I know what you're doing there. That'll do it for us today. We are going to rush to our cars and crank up the AC because, man, oh, man, is it hot in here. But we will be back, whether or not the AC is working. We will be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Trevor Maddich will join the program. And the 4 o'clock hour, the season finale of Elliot Freeman at 5. Looking forward to chatting with Elliot Freeman one more time this hockey season. We'll do it all tomorrow at 3. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you then.
Be loved. Love on your people. Stay warm.
Cool.
Blessed.
Not warm. It's hot as hell outside.
Exactly. Stay cool. COOL. Be loved. Be blessed. Love on your people. Have a wonderful and blessed day. I love you. The team love you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. We will be back on on this airwaves starting tomorrow at 3 p.m. on 102.5. And hopefully the AC is working. As I always say, we're going to be talking air.
You're going to be listening.
Peace.